جیسا کہ آپ جانتے ہیں ناظرین کہ ہم آپ کے ساتھ ایوری منڈے بٹوین 4 to 5 یہاں پر موجود ہوتے ہیں اور مختلف ٹاپکس کے حوالے سے آپ کے ساتھ ڈسکشنز ہوتی ہیں. کبھی ہم عطائے اختیار، خواتین کے عطائے اختیار کے حوالے سے بات کرتے ہیں، یعنی ویمن امپاورمنٹ کے حوالے سے. کبھی ہم کسی نہ کسی ٹیبو کو لے کے چلتے ہیں، فار ایگزامپل ڈومیسٹک وائلنس ہو گیا یا ڈیورس کا ایشو ہو گیا. اور ان سارے ٹاپکس کے اوپر ٹچ اپون کرنے کا مقصد ہمارا صرف اتنا ہوتا ہے کہ ہم اپنی کمیونٹی میں اویئرنیس کریٹ کر سکیں، تھوڑی سی نالج شیئرنگ ہو سکے، تھوڑی سی مختلف لوگوں کو، انٹرسٹنگ پرسنالٹیز کو ہم اپنے سیٹ پہ جمع کرتے ہیں تاکہ وہ اپنے ایکسپیرینسز کو شیئر کر سکیں آپ کے ساتھ، آپ کے گھروں میں، آپ کے ڈائننگ ٹیبلز پر، آپ کے لاؤنجز میں ہم پہنچ سکیں اور اپنے ایکسپیرینسز کو شیئر کر آپ کی اویئرنیس کریٹ کر سکیں، سو دیٹ اگر آپ کہیں اپنے کسی سیلف لمیٹنگ بلیف کی حوالے سے یا وجہ سے سٹک محسوس کرتے ہیں، اپنے آپ کو رکتا ہوا محسوس کرتے ہیں، آپ کی گروتھ آپ کو لگتا ہے کہ وہ آگے نہیں چل پا رہی، پروگریس نہیں آپ کر پا رہے، تو انشاءاللہ ہم یہاں پر موجود ہیں، آپ کے ساتھی ہیں، آپ کے دوست ہیں، اور ہمیشہ اس طرح کے اویئرنیس کے پروگرامز ہم آپ کے لیے لے کر آتے رہیں گے. اسی طرح سے ناظرین آج ہمارے پاس ایک بہت انٹرسٹنگ پرسنالٹی موجود ہیں، سسٹر اینی شاہ، جو کہ خود ایک زبردست ٹرانسفارمیشن اور امپاورمنٹ کوچ ہیں، اور ان کا فوکس صرف خواتین پر نہیں مگر ہر اس شخص کے اوپر ہوتا ہے جس کو امپاورمنٹ کی ضرورت ہوتی ہے یا سیلف ڈیولپمنٹ کی ضرورت ہوتی ہے، یا کہ ان کا سیلف کانفیڈنس لو ہوتا ہے یا ان کی سیلف اسٹیم لو ہوتی ہے. تو ہم ان سے آج ڈسکس کریں گے کہ ان کے پاس کیا ایڈوائس ہیں، کیا اسٹریٹجیز وہ یوز کرتی ہیں، کیا ٹپس وہ ہمیں دینا چاہیں گی جن کو استعمال کرتے ہوئے ہر وہ شخص جو کہ کسی رف پیچ سے گزر رہا ہے، جس کو اپنا سیلف اسٹیم، سیلف کانفیڈنس بوسٹ کرنے کی ضرورت ہے، تو یہ تمام تر مراحل سے جب وہ گزریں گے ان ٹپس کو، اسٹریٹجیز کو استعمال کرتے ہوئے، ڈیفینیٹلی ان کو فائدہ ہوگا اور وہ اپنے آپ سے محبت کرنا سیکھیں گے. اور جب وہ اپنے آپ سے محبت کرنا سیکھیں گے تو ظاہر سی بات ہے کہ وہ اپنے میسز سے، دوستوں سے، فیملی سے، احباب سے، تمام تر لوگ جو کمیونٹی میں ہیں ان سے بھی محبت کریں گے. تو سب سے پہلے محبت کا جو یہ جرنی ہے یہ اپنے آپ سے شروع ہوتی ہے. As they say, charity begins from home. So the message of spreading love starts from home as well. It starts from self-love. So inshallah, over to you, Sister Annie. Welcome on board.
Thank you very much, Sister Hina, for inviting me to speak today, and thank you very much for sharing what the topic will be, because I'm very excited to support our friends at home in their sort of journey of self-love. For me, I can give you a little bit of my background. I was born in Pakistan and I came here with my family when I was very, very young. I was about 3 years old. 1962, a long time ago, my father was already here, and my two older sisters and one younger sister, 4 of us came with my mum, and then afterwards 3 other children were added to the family. My 3 brothers were born, and we were a very large family. And our parents were trying to establish themselves in a new country, in a new community, having left their homes, trying to find work, trying to find ways of fitting in, or as it were, not really, because they tried to preserve not just their religion but their culture when they came here. So it was quite difficult for them to find other people like themselves at that point. So having a large family to support, they were young people themselves, it was very difficult. So a working class family with a lot of things needs to be met, and the pressure was on. So there were times when things weren't as blissful or as happy as you expect in a family to be. And I grew up as part of that family where everyone had to share everything in equal parts. My family were very good at cutting a piece of matai bread, anything they got cake, into
it's embedded in our culture, isn't it?
7, exactly. 7 pieces to share. It doesn't matter how much you get as long as you get some. So we shared. We're very good at sharing.
Alhamdulillah,
And from there on we went to school. I went to primary school, I went to secondary school, but the divide between the home life and school was very, very different. The cultures were different, school uniforms, home libas, clothes were different. So Ghar mein khana different tha. We ate differently at home, we ate differently at school.
Yeah.
So there were two separate lives. We sang hymns in the halls, we went along with the Christian side of things during the school day, and yet we knew we were Muslims, and when we came home, we spoke our own home languages, and we practiced our faith very strongly, and our culture was the big thing that kind of overtook our lives. And with parents who had 4 girls to bring up, it was quite a worry for them how things would turn out for us if we adopted the Western culture.
Yeah.
And I think that must have been quite a difficult and scary part for them. But as it happened, as we grew older and took our own life's journeys, we took the best from both cultures, and we came out as people who were still strong in our faith, and were still able to mix our work and our home lives up a little bit and make friends, and neighbours changed and everything. And then a lot of people from our own culture came into the country, and we got to know them, which was good for us in lots of levels, but it also helped to keep the culture as it was, and rather than moving it forward too much at times too. So from there on, cutting up to where my journey of self-love actually began. Firstly, as you grow up, you are getting people telling you different things about you. So as you grow older, you're not growing with your own ideas about yourself. Or about anything else, because you're forming those ideas from the education you are receiving externally. Schools, and parents, home, family life.
Absolutely.
Then as you grow older, you try to apply the same principles in the same ways that your parents taught you or you learned, and then you try to sort of do that for your family, because you think they did the best for you, and you're trying to do the best for your children. So that kind of makes you try to reinforce cultures and beliefs that were mainly just a culture or a subculture of where you're from, and not really reality anymore, because times move on, things change, and people need to move forward with what they want.
Evolve, basically.
Evolve ourselves basically to a better place, and to be the best we can. And it's not an easy journey.
No.
I myself, my father died when we were teenagers, so it got difficult. 2 eldest sisters were married. I had all the brothers and sisters much younger than me to look after, so there was a responsibility upon me to be a parent at the age of about 16 and a half, 17. And then with my mother, I supported my mother, and I helped her with my brother's education and everything else. They went to university, they all got through and did reasonably well for themselves. So I think they've done it really well for themselves, actually.
Hats off to you as well for being a rock for your mum.
I think that's where it all kind of, my world and my childhood and everything, growing up quite free childhoods in this country. We played in the garden all day long, and nobody told us off, and we didn't sit in front of screens. So it was just a big turnaround. I had to take responsibility for the family, and it threw me into a big parenting role, which is where
deep waters.
Which is where I started looking at the world and thinking what's right and what's wrong for these brothers of mine. So as that journey ended well for them, because they went off in their separate ways to continue their journey, my own journey started with my mum sort of thinking, I have an older daughter at home. She's old enough to be married now. Her father's dead and passed away. I said, but what about the brothers and their younger children in the home? I must help you look after them. And Mum was like, but I have my duties, I have my responsibilities, and I have to make sure that all my daughters are first sorted, and I was the next to be married. So Mum had already arranged a marriage with my father, which was an amicable situation for all of us. So I was quite happy with their doing, but not now I'd lost my father. It was not something that I could cope with. One of the most difficult things for me has been trying to cope with the loss of my father, which was well over 40 years now, well over 40 years ago. So The journey then took another tragic turn because while I was here in this country, newly married after my father's death, my husband was asked by his family, his mother, to come and visit, and he was a driver. He drove a van back to Pakistan, as they used to do a lot of that kind of thing, and he drove back, and he died in an accident over this. So by the age of 18, I was widowed. So I understand a lot of the challenges that especially the women go through here, because I've had to deal with all of these things at a very young age.
Yeah.
So my thought processes and my kind of judgments of the world are a little bit different. They were quite mature from when I was younger.
Yeah.
So where does that connect with self-love? There really wasn't any reason for me to love myself.
Yeah.
Or anyone else who I could say, sister, I love you, because my biggest fear was that I'd lose you. The people closest to me had died.
Yeah.
So I was afraid to say to someone, I care about you, I love you. And, you know, family, sisters, friends, I just kept away from everyone because I couldn't disclose good feelings, hug my sisters, do any of that. So it left me in a place where I was not very confident at all in any area of my life.
Yeah.
So from there, I was on my own for about just over 6 years, and then the family, my mom, she suggested that your brothers are now older, they'll all be getting married, everyone will have their own life.
Yeah.
You still need to have your own life. During that time, I had gone into education to work with children, and I'd started to teach, and I'd started to work with groups of children, and I'd started to teach children to read. And I did lots and lots of hours of work, which was really satisfying for me, because I didn't have to become family to these people, but as much as I cared, I could do something for them without attachment. After that, my mum suggested this marriage, and a marriage was arranged with a relative who I married. I wasn't forced or anything, but I had to rearrange my thinking as to
move on, basically.
Forward. It was the most difficult thing in my life to move forward from that. As well, after my father's death, it was hard to move forward. I remarried, and alhamdulillah, within a year of marriage, my eldest daughter was born, and my life changed a lot. And within another 18 months, I had another little girl, so I had my 2 daughters who are now grown up. And then a few years later, I had a little boy, so I have 2 girls and a boy. They're grown up, my children.
Mashallah.
And still, I think there was a fear. Each time I had my children, I wasn't able to attach in the way I felt, but I was very kind, I was very empathetic, I was very sympathetic, I was very caring, I was very loving in every way. Took care of all their needs, but the fear was still inside me. And I didn't want to, again, say out loud how much I loved them, because I didn't want to lose them. And there was that fear. Many people in my life now are not aware of my whole story. Then it took me a long time. Only in the recent kind of 3 or 4 years I've actually done, I went into self-development, and I've listened to a lot of speakers and many people who coach and give this kind of advice. And my journey in personal development changed everything for me.
Sorry, I'm cutting you there, sis.
Yeah, that's fine.
At which point did you realize that there's something missing and it needs to begin from within you?
That's exactly the thing. There is a turning point and a moment, which I'm so proud of, that I would like to talk about, is the fact that I had, over the years of bringing up my children, I had actually developed, because I was denying myself these feelings of self-love and love for others, especially my children. It was painful for me, painful journey, and I was not able to kind of say to them or to myself how much I cared. So I actually developed a craving for food all the time, so an addiction to food, and I was eating to comfort my feelings, which wasn't working for me. I piled on the weight over those years, and it came to the state where I was going to my work in the morning in pain, getting up in pain, going to work, coming home in pain, sitting in a chair, asking my children to bring me food, things to the table. and eating lots and lots of food that wasn't good for me. I had no energy, and I couldn't make it up with food, and I just kept eating more.
Yeah.
I developed diabetes very badly, and a condition called ME and fibromyalgia, which is in the muscles, joints, everywhere.
Yeah.
So it wasn't even then, I just thought, this is it, I'm just going to die like this. This is going to be the end of me, because diabetes is now set in, and it's kind of a permanent thing, as they say. But then I started reading things during this self-development, looking at things, and they said, no, you don't have to have diabetes forever. You can actually come off some of your medications. So the actual self-love thing started at a precise moment.
Oh, okay.
I had done lots of work. I knew it existed. I knew people talked about it. Others talked about it being, you know, somebody's got an ego, or somebody's so, you know, proud of themselves for no reason, whatever. But then one day I was sitting at my dressing table, I looked in the mirror, and I saw myself for the very first time. I looked into my own eyes, and I thought, oh, do you know what? I've been so kind, so loving, so caring, so trying to meet everyone's needs to other people. The one person who I should have loved the most on this earth was you. I looked in that mirror and I spoke to the girl. In the mirror I could see, and I could see a girl. I couldn't see me as I am now. The reflection was of a child.
Yeah.
She was looking back at me, and it was me about 8 years old, 7, 8 years old.
Ever since she's been longing for that love.
She just looked at me longingly. It was all just so emotional and painful. I looked at her, the tears started flowing from my eyes, and I could feel this love for this child so much that I had never felt for anyone or anything in my life. And I just sat and I let the tears flow, and then at the end I thought, right, from now on, everything I do for anyone, everything I say in my life will start with you.
Yeah.
I will tell you how much I care about you and love you. I will do everything from your perspective. I will make sure that you have plenty of whatever it is you want to share with others. And that was my journey of self-love starting.
SubhanAllah.
And then you say to me, well, how did you make those changes?
Yeah. Yeah.
That, I thought, was planting a tiny seed of love inside your own heart.
Yeah.
You've got to do that. If you want to be able to love yourself, you've got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
And we all know when we plant a small seed, tiny seed, it needs a lot of nurturing, caring. It can't grow on its own.
Yeah.
It needs warmth from the sunshine, it needs moisture from the water, it needs lots of looking and caring for and tending to and loving. And then from then onwards, you water, you care, you nurture. And the seed quite quickly grows.
Yeah.
And it grows at a rate you would not expect.
Yeah.
And then you end up with so much love inside you, it overflows.
Yeah.
And it touches the next person, sister.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That was the day I realized I had managed to put this self-love in place.
Yeah.
Was when others said to me, you look really well. Oh, whenever I see you, you make me smile. You make me cheer up. Oh, you're so kind to me. And I'm thinking, I was all those things before, but not to myself. To you I was, but to myself I wasn't. And now that I do this for myself, now everyone I meet, even if I've never met you before, I can feel and I can sense and I can give.
Yeah.
That respect, that love that I give to myself.
Yeah, yeah. And I guess it just becomes kind of a muscle memory, something on an autopilot, because you're loving yourself consistently. It just sits in your subconscious mind, and you start looking at the world from that lens, that because you're so important, you love yourself so much, you're Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's Ashraful Makhluqat, He calls us, He's created us. And if you're so important for yourself, then obviously the other people are equally important. And as much as you start saying you self-love, indulge in self-love, self-love basically makes you selfless as well.
It does.
So it's all about, you know, giving in order to get. And how do we portray our perspective in general about life is, you need to get in order to give. But it works the other way around, basically.
It's a fantastic system, and it's a great cycle of give and then it rolls back, because you can only give you can give as much as you want, but some of it starts rolling back, and then for if I give to one person and they give me 10 times back, and everyone gives you more back, so you receive much more than you can ever give.
Absolutely.
You keep giving. But the other thing also is, for some people it works that way, it goes onto autopilot, and they can do it if they're young enough, or if they've started early enough, or if they've got let's say less damage control of what life has done to them. With myself personally, with the amount of things that have happened and how late I started this self-love journey, what happens is I have to, it's like cleaning the floor or the surfaces in your kitchen. I have to do it daily. I have to practice things daily that help me move, stay in that place, or move me further forward in it. If I expect it to happen by itself because I've started that journey, it doesn't take me anywhere.
Right.
I have to feed that plant or seed that I planted. I have to feed that plant. So, I have to, as they say, tend to the roots if you want good fruit. So I have to get to the bottom of that place every day to be able to lift myself through. When I start neglecting myself, I can feel it, because not only am I no good to people around me,
vibrations are going down.
And you start to get angry, you get feelings, negative feelings about things, or you start to speed up and try to do too much in a short space of time, and you think, I've got no time, I've got to do this, all the negativity comes in. And then you find it doesn't work because you're not loving yourself.
So then, as part of your daily routine, do you do lots of affirmations to bring yourself at that level, to make yourself consciously realize that you need to be loved, you need to be given that dose of nourishment and nurturing? Is it affirmations, gratitude? What do you practice?
All of the above.
Okay.
All of the above. One of the biggest things I've done and started those 3 or 4 years ago was a gratitude diary. I keep it in my bedside cabinet. I pull it out before I go to sleep. I write the things I'm terribly grateful for. There may be new things in that day, or may it just be my family, my children. Very often with me, it starts with my family. So, and the food I have, and the water I have, and everything that God has given us.
Alhamdulillah,
I show gratitude for all of those things, and know that they're a blessing for me. I do affirmations where I repeat the same things again. I'm grateful for the things I have in my life. I'm happy that I feel worthy of that I've been given this.
Indeed.
So, and I know there are people with more, I know there are people with less, but I am who I am, and I'm blessed with all the things I have each day. And no one ever said, no, it's never been that I've not had a dinner for myself or feed the children. It's never been that I haven't had no home to live in. People go through all sorts of things.
Definitely,
But I feel I've been blessed with everything, and things get better for me as time is going on, because with this diabetes and everything else, and once I started loving myself, I actually chose what I put in my mouth, what I was going to eat, what I was going to drink. So it wasn't going to be fizzy pops, it wasn't going to be anything that's sugary or over the top or excessive amounts of food or the wrong food. So healthy foods came in, exercise came in, drinking a lot of water came in. You don't know how grateful each day I am for my bottle of water. And refill and refill and have more and more. There's plenty there.
Because you also told me that, you had diabetes, but then it got reversed because of your conscious habit of eating and drinking water. I mean, it's very, very, what would I say, alarming for anybody, for me, myself as well. At the time when you told me about this, I was like, okay, I have heard, because my mum was a doctor. And, she's passed away a couple of months ago, but and she was on the borderline of diabetes. And she was very conscious, being a doctor and being a very self-conscious person, very, a God-fearing person. She thought that she is an amana of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on this earth. So she needs to look after herself, and she hence passed on the same message and same values to us as well.
That's such a blessing.
So I used to ask her, Mum, I hardly see you eating anything. Your dinner is one full fat glass of milk and that's about it. And she says, like, do you know how many calories are there in it? That's enough to justify my little, system in there, and that's enough. And so then I asked her, I said that, are you trying to, curb onto your diet because of diabetes? Does it ever get diminished? Does it ever go away? So she said that you can maintain it through your conscious eating habits. You can maintain it, but I hadn't known that you could actually reverse it.
I was on.
That's a miracle.
I was on 4 tablets and an injection. And during my sort of with the first 18 months to 2 years of my exercise and eating healthily and drinking all the water and not eating too much food, not eating all the meals in the day either. I only eat when I'm hungry now.
Yeah.
Due to that, I ended up losing 5.5 to 6 stone in weight.
Wow.
And first the injection went, then another tablet, then another tablet, then another. I do take metformin only now to maintain my situation, because sometimes, being human, I may have
some cravings here and there,
eat it because the children are eating
some gulab jamun, some kheer here and there.
Yes. So for that reason, I do still take metformin, which is, you know, okay for me at the moment. And also the amount of time I've actually had diabetes has been a long time. So I think I don't want to shock the system too much, but yes, I have got back off, and on a day when things I feel have gone not right, it's the same again. You have to do things consistently on a daily basis to get the result you require. So if you've got a desired goal and a desired result you want, you have to keep persistently doing a little bit towards it, to get that end result. And you don't even know the difference each day. You don't see the difference you've made, but at the end of, say, a month, 2 months, 6 months, you will see that I've actually come to a better place and have a new starting point. So if there are sisters at home or brothers or anyone at home who is listening to me now and feels that diabetes is something that they can't control, or they need to be on these the medicines have so many side effects. If you're listening to me now and you need to research it, and you need to look to see how you can help yourself. It's not an easy journey. Nothing worthwhile is ever easy to get.
Easy come and easy go.
It's not. So I think that, you know, make an attempt, educate yourself, and find the ways that you can move that forward for yourself, as I have found for myself. Not everything works for everyone. Some things might work for you. A lot of things worked for me, but I had to trial and error a lot of things. But self-love is the one that actually started me off, because once I actually decided that and made that choice, my weight around me, my weight started to come off anyway. Because my choices of what I consumed changed, and my environment changed. I threw away things I hadn't used. I had clothes in my cupboard, because as my weight went up, my wardrobe had to have more and more new clothes in it, and I can't wear these, but I can't throw them away. So I had a lot of things to sort. And I sat and I physically, practically sorted everything out, had my spaces freed up, all the clutter went from my head, the clutter went from my environment, the clutter went from my body, and I feel that has helped me so much.
Alhamdulillah.
If there's anyone out there who feels hopeless and feels there is no hope and there is no going forward, please don't feel that way. There is always hope. Find someone to talk to. Find someone who's already done recordings on the internet, on YouTube or something, something will click with you and you will move forward, because people out there have done the work, the research, like myself. I've done a lot of research on these topics to help myself, and now feel that I should be able to share that with you all.
Definitely. You know, it's such a, what would I say, it's been a pleasure to have you on board, to discuss all these things with you, because you see, day in and day out, I'm thinking that, you know, the lifestyle of our elderly sitting at home, women especially, it's more going towards, you know, काम काज घर का किया, उसके बाद आप फारिग हो गए, इस टाइम पे आप जब घर में बैठते हैं, आपके पास करने को ज़्यादातर और कुछ नहीं सिवाय इसके कि आप टीवी पे बैठे हैं। टीवी पे जब प्रोग्राम्स वगैरह चल रहे होते हैं, तो उसमें भी फिर आप ज़्यादातर आपको जो है वो एक नेगेटिव पोर्ट्रेल मीडिया के ऊपर दिखाई दे रहा होता है मोस्ट ऑफ द टाइम। यू नो, कोई चटपटी मज़ेदार बातें देखने को सीखने को मिलती नहीं हैं। हेंस द रीज़न हमने ये सोचा कि इस प्रोग्राम को जो है वो स्टार्ट किया जाए, ताकि अपनी माँओं के साथ, अपनी बहनों के साथ, हम अपने दोस्तों के साथ, फैमिली के साथ, अहलो अयाल के साथ ये इन्फॉर्मेशन शेयर कर सकें, जो कि बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट है उनके लिए, और उनके दिलों तक हम घर कर सकें, पहुंचा सकें इस चीज़ को कि जी हम इसमें से गुजरे हैं, और अगर आप भी गुजर रहे हैं तो ये स्ट्रैटेजीज अगर आप करेंगे इस्तेमाल, तो आप डेफिनेटली इनसे मुस्तफ़ी होंगे, आपको फ़ायदा होगा। So now going back to the strategy aspect of it, we spoke about affirmations and gratitude. Now you need to share some more secrets with us.
Yes, daily actions. I was thinking, you're reading my mind here, you know that.
Well, I'm from the same industry, so that's the reason.
Daily actions that I took, one of them was, after all this early morning rituals and prayers and whatever, I went out, I dropped my grandchildren at their school, their primary school children, and I went straight to a gym.
Right, excellent.
I did exercise, I did swimming activities, aquatone activities, and then I came home, I ate good meals, I collected the children, I made healthy meals for them, and we spent family time together, so that made a big difference.
Right.
Other things I found was there were groups around my area, as in Run Birmingham for women. There are special groups just for women who are at home during the day or who can make it if they're shift working or something to come to that. We run around the park like 5K or 10K, depending on your ability, for 2 mornings a week. I joined a cycling group. There's a lot of Saheli cycling, and there's lots and lots of other activities going on for
I'd
women.
love to be a part of that. Please share more info later on.
When I went to the cycling group, there were young girls there, and I spoke to them, and I said to them, oh, something or other. I don't know what somebody said to me, and I said, these are my daughters, and I am 58, I was at the time. I said, I'm 58 years old, and they said, really, you don't look your age? And I said, thank you. And they said, but in our culture, women, when they get to 45, they go to the doctor, he says you're diabetic, they bring their bed downstairs and they expect everyone to serve them there. That must be happening in somebody's house, because they said it to me. It's not happened in mine. My mum's always been active. She's 83 and she's active, walks around and does her own thing.
But majority of the times,
But majority of the time, this is what's happening. People say, well, the doctor says I'm ill, so I'm very sick, I can't do anything more. I have a sickness. They own it. You have to detach yourself from that.
They make it a condition.
Yes. And now this is it. For the rest of my life, you will serve me. My daughter-in-law, my daughter, everyone must look after me. And they were saying that to me, that this is what they do in our culture, but I said, no, not me. Then I found myself a fencing class, and I tried my hand at fencing. I really enjoyed that. But I've tried lots of different activities, and I'm not afraid anymore. I lived in a lot of fear, fear of loss, which I had a lot of loss in my life. You can understand that. And fear of doing anything different, fear of coming from a different culture to do something within the new culture. You know, all of the things that I'd gone through my life held me back. And where do we get these limiting beliefs from?
Absolutely.
Where do they come from? It's like, why do I not feel good enough? Why do I feel that I can't do this or that? So we're like, somebody says to us, if I said to you, come cycling with me, and you said, oh no, I've never learned to ride a bike, I'm too scared and I don't think I could do it. Now that is cutting off your options completely. Your beliefs are totally limiting that you're incapable. And yet when you say, if you walk through the park, you would see little children, big people, adults, men, women, everyone cycling around the park. Young kids doing wheelies, you know, all
even elderly people, and it's so beautiful.
And you think to yourself, I can't do that. What makes you think you can't do it?
Absolutely. It's doubting yourself.
Where do limiting beliefs come from? That's when you're growing up, like I said before, I think I've covered this bit, that where people say to you that you're not good enough, or you shouldn't be doing this, or not in our family, or not in our culture, or not in our religion, or not in this country, whatever the excuses or reasons. First of all, girls have a lot of limitations put on them.
To begin with, you know, let alone later on that you're not capable, शुरुआत यहाँ से होती है, तुम काली हो, तुम मोटी हो, तुम short height की हो, तो तुम तो कुछ भी नहीं कर सकती. Do you understand? It's so bad.
And as you're growing up, if you do something wrong, say if your mom's teaching you to cook and you burn it, or you don't get the flavor right, or there's too much salt in it, and in the culture it was like she'd say, you're no good, you've done this 3 times now, you burnt it, you can't cook, you can't. And it's not because they don't, I don't know, it's just the culture they were brought up in that's passed on to us.
It's a vicious circle.
So it is. And what we must remember, that some of these things, although they're quite negative to say that your parents did something that wasn't perfectly good for you, you've also got to remember that they did all the good things too. That's why you are who you are, and that's why where you are now. And I think when you start making a list of all the bad and the good, you find the good things exceed. They had their fears about bringing up their kids. They had their doubts about, they had their worries about what might happen to you, your safety, your moral values, your religious values. They had concerns that the outside world or something would affect those. And they did everything to protect you.
To protect you, to make sure at a conscious level to give you good values, morals, upbringing. But at an unconscious level, obviously, that vicious circle has been going on for generations. Hence the reason people like yourself and myself are here today to create more awareness around the subject matter. But thank you very much, sister, to be on board with me today. We're running short of time for whatever.
Can I just say as a final thing, if anybody wants to talk more about the subjects I've talked about or I've touched on and I haven't had time for the details, you can find me on Facebook as Annie Shah, and you'll see a photograph, you'll see a picture, so you'll recognize me, and I'd be glad to help you, because that's what I do.
Inshallah, fantastic. Thank you so much
for
being
me
here
on the
with
show.
us. You're welcome. जी नाजरीन, उम्मीद करती हूँ कि आज के डिस्कशन के हवाले से आज का जो टॉपिक है वो आपको बहुत मुफीद लगा होगा, और जितनी भी नॉलेज और हमने बातें आपसे शेयर की हैं वो भी आपको अपनी ज़िंदगी में काम आएंगी, अगरचे कि आप डेली बेसिस पे अपनी एक रूटीन बना लीजिए जिसके अंदर आप इनरसाइज करें, और इनरसाइज से मेरी मुराद ये है कि आप बहुत सारी अफर्मेशंस करें, अफर्म करें ख़ुद को कि आप अच्छे हैं और आप काबिल हैं, और इसी तरह से आप ग्रैटिट्यूड को भी प्रैक्टिस करें, यानी कि अल्लाह सुब्हान ताला की ज़ात के लिए आप की ज़ात के हवाले से जो भी ब्लेसिंग्स आपको अल्लाह सुब्हान ताला ने दी हैं आप उनके लिए ग्रेटफुल हों। देखें, डेली बेसिस पे हम इस वक्त बात कर रहे हैं और आपके सामने जो है वो हम मौजूद हैं, हम सांस ले रहे हैं। कितनी मरतबा हमने दिन में इस हिसाब से जो है वो रिफ्लेक्ट किया होगा, कॉन्शियस लेवल पे जाके सोचा होगा कि आज हम जो भी हैं, जहाँ भी हैं, अल्लाह का शुक्र अदा करना चाहिए कि हम ज़िंदा हैं, हमारे हाथ पैर मौजूद हैं, हम सालिम हैं और हम सांस ले रहे हैं। तो हर दिन, हर एक एक सेकंड हमारे लिए बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट है, और इसको इम्पोर्टेंट इन लम्हात को इम्पोर्टेंट हम तभी बना सकेंगे जबकि हम अपनी लाइफ को एक पर्पसफुल तरीके से स्पेंड कर सकेंगे। और उसको पर्पसफुल तरीके से किस तरह से स्पेंड करेंगे? सेल्फ लव के ज़रिए। अपने आप को इम्पोर्टेंस देंगे, अपने आप को चाहेंगे, मोहब्बत करेंगे, तो जाहिर सी बात है कि आप वही वाइब्स इमिट करेंगे दूसरों को भी। तो जाहिर है कि लॉ ऑफ अट्रैक्शन जब अपना काम कर रहा है, जब आप प्यार करेंगे तो प्यार बांटेंगे और प्यार आपको मिलेगा भी सही। इसी के साथ नाजरीन, इंशाल्लाह मिलते हैं आपके साथ दोबारा अगले हफ्ते मंडे को 4 से 5 के बीच में। प्लीज़ देखना न भूलिएगा, और प्लीज़ अपना फीडबैक ज़रूर देते रहिए मुझे, क्योंकि जाहिर सी बात है कि मेरी भरपूर कोशिश रहेगी कि मैं इस प्रोग्राम पे उन्हीं लोगों को लेकर आऊँ जिन जो आप लोगों को ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा मशवरे दे सकें, ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा इंफॉर्मेटिव जो है वो बातें आपसे शेयर कर सकें, और जो मसले मसाइल आपके हैं उनको टच अपॉन करके आपको स्ट्रैटेजीज़ और टिप्स और एडवाइस दे सकें ताकि आप भी अपनी ज़िंदगी को बेहतर बना सकें। अच्छा, चलते चलते मैं आपको एक और बात कहती चलूँ। आजकल बहुत सारा हम देखते हैं अपनी मुस्लिम ऑनलाइन और ऑफलाइन स्पेस में कि ख़वातीन जो हैं वो अपना वर्क लाइफ बैलेंस क्रिएट करना चाहती हैं कि जिस तरह से वो अपने घर को भी टाइम दे सकें, अपने मियाँ को, अपने बच्चों को टाइम दे सकें, और बहुत सारा टाइम सेल्फ लव के लिए भी वो निकाल सकें। तो उसके लिए एक बहुत मुफीद मशवरा, और क्योंकि यही चीज़ मैं अपने आप के लिए भी करना चाहती थी, वर्क लाइफ बैलेंस मेरे लिए बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट था, बिकॉज अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह मेरे तो 6 बच्चे हैं, विद द एल्डेस्ट वन बीइंग 20 years old एंड द यंगेस्ट वन नाउ बीइंग 9 months old। मेरे लिए बहुत मुश्किल हो गया था कि मैं जगल करूँ इतने सारे प्रोजेक्ट्स जिनमें मैं इन्वॉल्व हूँ। और मैंने ये सोचा अपने आप से, मैंने ये वादा किया कि है ना, तुम्हारा फोकस हर चीज़ पे कम से कम होता जा रहा है, एनर्जी डाइल्यूट होती जा रही है, तो फिर मज़ा नहीं आता काम करने का। तो जिस चीज़ की मेरी प्रायोरिटी थी मैंने अपना फोकस उस पर कर दिया, और वर्क लाइफ बैलेंस क्रिएट करने के लिए मैंने बॉडी शॉप एट होम का जो प्रोजेक्ट है वो अडॉप्ट कर लिया। अब मैं क्या करती हूँ कि फ्रॉम द कम्फर्ट ऑफ माई ओन हाउस मैं आराम से अपने मेकअप परचेज़ करती हूँ, बॉडी केयर की, स्किन केयर की चीज़ें परचेज़ करती हूँ, अपने ऊपर इस्तेमाल करती हूँ, अपने बच्चों के ऊपर इस्तेमाल करती हूँ, और उसके बाद उसके बिफोर एंड आफ्टर इफेक्ट्स जो है वो नाज़रीन शेयर करके लोगों के साथ, और अपने घर में बैठ के अपना बिजनेस चलाती हूँ। जिसको जो चीज़ चाहिए होता है वो मुझसे कांटेक्ट कर लेते हैं। हिना जुनेजा मेरा नाम है, जैसे कि आप जानते हैं। फेसबुक पे आप जो है वो इजीली मुझे ढूंढ सकते हैं अगर आप इंटरेस्टेड हैं, क्योंकि आजकल मैं रिक्रूटमेंट कर रही हूँ अपने बिजनेस के लिए। अगर आप इंटरेस्टेड हैं वर्क लाइफ बैलेंस के लिए अपने घर में, तो काइंडली मुझे आप कांटेक्ट कीजिए, इंशाल्लाह PM मैसेज कीजिए मुझे, और मैं आपसे डेफिनेटली भरपूर इंफॉर्मेशन इस हवाले से शेयर करूँगी। तो इंशाल्लाह मिलते हैं अगले हफ्ते आपके साथ दोबारा सहेली के प्रोग्राम पे। अस्सलाम वालेकुम।